Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and of course, Andy's here with me today.
Are you sure that's me, Michael, with these dark sunglasses?
It's
all you have is basically just an
Right.
outline of like my features.
Right. Yeah, we might need to get a police sketch
I could be
of how
anybody.
you look to remember you today.
I could be anybody
You
today,
could
Michael.
be. You could be. Much like old DB Cooper. I see what you're getting at, Andy.
Right?
You're getting damn good at these segues.
I know.
Let's
I
give it to you.
I actually plan a little bit ahead now.
Do you? You plan? That is not in True Crime Guys fashion. I'm going to have to ask you to stop doing that.
What?
No, but we are talking DB Cooper today, one of my favorite cases of all time. It has been years since we covered DB Cooper on True Crime Guys, and I don't even think we have a free episode available on DB. And I was like, we got to change that.
Mm-hmm.
We got to change that. I think we covered him back in 2018.
Damn.
I believe. Well, I was still in Vegas.
Oh,
We
yeah. I
covered DB
remember,
Cooper.
I remember when you guys did DB Cooper. It was way back when. I think I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember listening to it while I was cutting grass one time.
Oh, wow. In 2018. Right on. Right
Way
on.
back when.
Long time listener, Andy. Glad to have you on the show.
Right?
But guys, I must remind you before we get into this that you can catch these episodes early and ad-free on Patreon. But here on the free platform, you can check out our other shows like Strange and Unexplained and Cryptic Soup with Thina and Kylie. New episodes of Cryptic Soup come out every single Wednesday. And make sure you also give them a follow on Instagram as well at Cryptic Soup Pod. So new content all the time here at TCG. Also, a little known show. We also have a show called Sandu Stories.
We do have a little standing show.
Yeah, we have one season out, and we are slackers.
We are.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It was a big undertaking, and I'm surprised we got one season. But this is something that we do have more that we could release on the free platform. You can hear all of the Sandu stories on our Patreon, patreon.com/True Crime Guys, and you can get access to actually everything we make there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can.
But yeah, you can listen to the first season of Sandu Stories here on the free platform, and it's totally different from this show and Strange and Unexplained. It's basically audio theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to advertise as true crime what if stories.
Exactly. That's how we started, and then we kind of just went off the rails, started writing our own shit.
Right? Yeah.
It was a lot of fun though, and it still is, and that's still something that Andy and myself enjoy, and we'll definitely get back into that. But for now, you guys can check that out and give us a follow on social media at True Crime Guys, wherever it is. X, the gram, the book.
Wherever you consume your media.
That's right, wherever. But today, I am anxious to get into DB Cooper. If you're unfamiliar with old DB, DB Cooper is the name we use for a man who hijacked a Boeing 727 aircraft in the Pacific Northwest, somewhere in the airspace between Portland and Seattle. And this happened on Wednesday, November 24th, 1971. What a time to be alive.
God, there's so much happening in the Pacific Northwest all the time. You got
Especially in
plane
the 70s.
hijackings, Bigfoot sightings.
It's crazy up there, man.
I know.
It's crazy.
Now just Portland.
That's the remnants of it.
Right? Yeah.
That's what you get. But this man demanded a ransom, and then he leaped from the plane with a parachute. Probably. Now, despite a manhunt and massive FBI investigation, the man has never been located or identified. It remains the only unsolved case of air piracy in commercial aviation history, and the FBI maintained an active investigation for 45 years after the hijacking. They wanted that money, Andy.
No,
They wanted that money back.
Absolutely. Listen, the government does not forget the money.
They do not forget the money. They kept that case open until 2016.
They're always coming for the money. What do you think got Al Capone?
All about that money. All right, roll that intro, Andy. Let's get into it.
Welcome to our DB Cooper party, complete with buffalo stew.
When he got on a plane in Portland, Oregon last night, he was just another passenger who gave his name as D.A. Cooper. But today, after hijacking a Northwest Airlines jet, ransoming the passengers in Seattle, then making a getaway by parachute somewhere between there and Reno, Nevada, description on one wire service, master criminal.
Which reminds me of my favorite thing, basically mystery ever, DB Cooper.
A daring parachute escape from a flying 727 somewhere between Reno and Seattle, Washington. Authorities began their search here, thinking the hijacker may have jumped off at the end of the runway as the plane touched down. But the problem is more complex.
The only reason to give it any credence at all is the vast expanse of wilderness that exists in the Pacific Northwest, because it's so lush.
Let DB be. There are some things that should remain a mystery. Let DB be. Can't you see? He's the Robin Hood of the 70s.
Snow covers the mountains in Northern California and Nevada, a hostile terrain for any parachute drop, especially at night.
But people want to believe so bad.
Did a fisherman really pull a parachute shroud line out of Lake Merwin, then lose it? A two-man submarine search turned up nothing. This is the man who pulled off the only successful skyjacking in U.S. history. All they found was $5,800 and no sign of D.B. Cooper. Well, the people are sure he's still alive.
For all we know, he's been here. You know, walked in, had a beer, and walked there and walked out.
Let DB be. There are some things that should remain a mystery. Let DB be. Can't you see? He's the Robin Hood of the 70s.
Because it's so lush.
All right, Andy, we're going to get right into it. Cue the spy music. On November 24th, 1971.
Oh, not real? Not
No,
really?
not
Okay.
real. We'll put it in post.
Oh,
actually.
okay, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll cut all this out. On November 24th, 1971, a middle-aged man carrying a black briefcase approached the flight counter of Northwest Orient Airlines at Portland International Airport. He said his name was Dan Cooper, and he used cash to purchase a one-way ticket on Flight 305. The flight was about a 30-minute hop and a skip to Seattle. No big deal.
That's like all I could think about was like the phrase around here. People are like, oh, by the way, the crow flies.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, it's a fucking plane.
It's a plane. Yeah. We're also going to fly that way.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So Cooper boarded the aircraft and took seat 18C in the rear of the cabin. He lit a cigarette and he ordered a bourbon and a soda.
Because this was back in the day.
And he classy.
Just get on a plane and lighting a cigarette.
Hell yeah, man. He looked classy as hell.
In that enclosed metal tube in the sky.
Right? Passengers described him as a man in his mid-40s, between 5'10" and 6 foot, wearing a black raincoat, loafers, a dark suit, a neatly pressed white-collared shirt, a black clip-on tie with a mother-of-pearl tie pin.
I did wonder how they knew
Very
it was
specific.
I did wonder how they knew it was a clip-on tie. Because I just imagine the Tommy Boy scene of him trying to adjust it one time and just being like, oh, damn it. Just clipping it back on. It's a clip-on. It's a clip-on.
It's a clip-on, sorry.
Just in case anybody tried to strangle him with his own tie, he was like,
hey, he did think of a lot.
Yeah, right.
We'll talk about that.
Breakaway tie.
Now, shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to the flight attendant who was seated closest to him, and she was in a jump seat attached to the rear door. Now, she assumed that the note contained, some lonely businessman's phone number or something, so she just dropped it in her purse. She didn't even read it.
I need napkins badly.
Exactly. No, Cooper saw this, and he leaned over towards her, and he said, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb."
Well, you just defeated the purpose of the note.
There
Why did you even hand me the note? It's like why
did you just?
I just imagine like a Katie Seagal type figure of a flight attendant being like, "Is that what's on the note? Do I still need to read?
Do I still need to read the note? But you want the note back? Okay.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
There is your phone number on this thing. That's what I thought. That's
You
what I thought.
son of a bitch. But no, she quickly reached down and got the piece of paper, and the note was printed in neat, all capital letters with a nice felt tip pen. This guy was classy, if nothing else. He's one of my favorites, let me tell you, I must say. Now, its exact wording is unknown because Cooper later, like I mentioned, he took the note back from her. But we get the idea. And after she read the note, Cooper told her to sit beside him. And she quietly asked to see the bomb. She's like, Can I see the bomb?
I'm gonna need some proof of this
before
I react. Like, I'm gonna finish my cigarette first, and
right. She's just like, I just need to see if it's a bomb.
how about you go ahead and show it to me, okay? Let's see how we'll see how big of a situation we're talking here.
She's just a hardened stewardess, bro.
Yes.
I love it.
You think this is my first hijacking?
But Cooper, he opened the briefcase, just long enough for her to glimpse at it. But she said she caught the sight of 6 to 8 red cylinders attached to wires with red insulation and a very large cylindrical battery. Now, this sounds about as Looney Tunes of a bomb description as it could possibly be.
It sounds
honestly like at 11, this is how I would have described a bomb. Probably.
It literally made me. I made the Tommy Boy joke about having
Yeah.
the clip on, but it makes me think of the Tommy Boy scene when he puts the road flares and the alarm clock on his chest.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, these are just some road flares.
It's brilliant.
That's like, I'm pretty sure that's probably what was in this package. Just a bunch of road flares and an alarm clock, most likely.
Exactly. Now, after he closed the briefcase back, and I guess she was satisfied that it was a bomb. She's like, all right.
It looks like a bomb
It
to
looks
me.
like a bomb. He's like, all right, can I tell you my fucking demands now? No.
Are we doing this now?
But he said, I want $200,000 by 5 p.m. in cash in a knapsack. He said, I want 2 back parachutes and 2 front parachutes. And I want 45% off my Magic Mind bundle with the True Crime Guys link. Are you writing this down? It's magicmind.com/TCGJan. Yes, Magic Mind. For the first time ever, they got a 24 hours pack. It's focus and sleep shots. They're part of the 5 pillars. Oh my God, do I have to explain everything? All right. It's sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, and oxygenous compounds. Okay, if you must know, write this down. It's a very specific list of demands. Yes, I can testify to them. I have been using Magic Mind's focus shots in the mornings 6 days a week. And seriously, it's made a noticeable difference in my clarity. Just look at the wiring on this bomb. Look at this. Okay, Magic Mind, focus all day long. Look, I tell you what, if you're not convinced, Magic Mind, they'll give you a 100% refund, no questions asked, 100 days after buying. No joke. They ship internationally, 65 countries. They're in stores too. They're in Sprouts, H-E-B, Central Market, all kinds of stuff. Listen, you can get 45% off, okay? The Magic Mind bundle. Go to www.magicmind.com/TCGJan. That's www.magicmind.com/TCGJan. And one more thing. When we land, I want a fuel truck ready to refuel. No funny stuff, or I'll do the job. No, this love that because it's so 70s.
Right? Yeah.
No funny stuff, or I'll do the job.
I'll do the job.
Oh, and just for comparison to today's insanely inflated prices, $200,000 in 1971 is about 1.5 mil today.
I mean, that's still not a high ransom for an entire plane full of people.
That's even sad. That's even sad that you're saying that. That's
I'm just
not
saying,
a lot of money now. That's just even.
I'm
gives.
saying in comparison to what it is, like this is a plane full of passengers.
Yeah.
And he's only demanding 1.7 mil. It's like you would think it's like in today's money.
Yeah.
Like if this was like Boeing or any other company, it's like, yeah, fuck it, give it to him. Like. Yeah, that's cheaper. That's less than what it costs to ship. That's less than what we paid to put that plane in the sky.
And maybe that's what he was banking on, right?
Yeah.
He's like, 200,000, it's a lot, but it's not crazy.
It's not breaking your bank.
Right, exactly. So the flight attendant gave Cooper's instructions to the pilots, and when she returned, Cooper was wearing his iconic dark sunglasses.
I wear
That's
my
badass,
sunglasses
bro.
inside.
It's like, just in case she didn't look at your eyes before.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure she looked at your physical attributes when you said, I have a bomb.
Yeah, she was like, you look like a bomb guy.
Yeah, you look like a bomb guy. Open the case.
Yeah.
But the pilot contacted Seattle-Tacoma Airport Air Traffic Control, which in turn informed local and the federal authorities. Now, the 36 other passengers, that's how many people were on the plane. So it's a decent size plane. The 36 other passengers were told that their arrival in Seattle would be delayed because of a, quote, minor mechanical difficulty. No big deal.
Just imagine there's one guy on that plane being like, is it because of that guy in the briefcase? He's giving off a vibe.
He's giving off a vibe. And I saw him say something to the stewardess, and then she came up here all panicky.
I don't trust him. I don't trust him. What kind of cigarettes are those?
We said minor mechanical difficulty, sir. Please sit down. Yeah. But anyways, Northwest Orient Airlines president, he immediately authorized payment of the ransom and ordered all employees to cooperate fully with Cooper's demands.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a lot of money. So for that size of a company, to an extent, you would think it's like $200,000 for a plane full of people. We don't lose. There's not an explosion in the sky. A lot of bad PR. It's like when you think about the amount of money that company would have to pay out,
exactly,
if it went down in comparison.
It's almost like Cooper knew that.
Yeah, right.
That's crazy.
He weighed some things out here.
Yeah, or maybe he had experience, a lot more experience than we think. We'll talk about it. Now, the aircraft circled Puget Sound for approximately 2 hours to allow the Seattle police and the FBI enough time to get all of this shit together. The money, the parachutes, all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, witnesses stated that Cooper was familiar with the local terrain. At one point, he remarked, "Looks like Tacoma down there," as they were actually flying over Tacoma. He also correctly mentioned that McChord Air Force Base was only a 20-minute drive from Seattle-Tacoma Airport.
Okay.
Which was also correct.
Yeah, this guy,
they're learning a lot about him while they're doing this flight. I mean, 2 hours with the guy? They're just being cordial. They're just talking to him, right?
Yeah, because he's got nobody else to talk to. He's up there by himself. He doesn't have a partner up there that we know of.
Right. He was polite. He was well-spoken. A gentleman, even, a lot of people said. At one point, he ordered another bourbon, and he paid for his drink with a 20, and the drink only cost $2. Mm-hmm. And he told the stewardess to keep the change. $18, man. That's a hell of a tip in 1971.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He's still
paying
paying
it's
for
the
his
least
drink.
he could do. I mean, he's literally terrifying this woman.
Yeah, he's like, I'm still paying for my drinks here. I'm not stealing from you.
Like $18 for like my comfort.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's $18 for your time, ma'am.
Right. But he also offered to request meals for the flight crew during the stop in Seattle, but they politely declined.
Oh no, thank you. We all packed a lunch actually.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it though.
Yeah, thanks so much. He's a nice guy.
Brett's on Atkins actually. So,
so the FBI agents assembled the ransom money from several Seattle banks. It ended up being 10,000 unmarked $20 bills, most with serial numbers beginning with the letter L, which indicated that they were distributed by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. And a microfilm photograph was made of every single bill.
Damn.
Every single one.
Now, was this before they gave him the ransom, or was this just while the money was printed? Do you know?
That's a good question.
I thought about that before too. It's like, did they go?
Either way, it's before.
Because it took some time to get all this stuff together. So I'm like, did they take that time? It's like that's a lot of time to take a microfilm picture to an extent.
No, I think they just probably got the copies of them from the plant. Maybe.
Yeah, probably of the sheets before they were cut and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Now, at first, Cooper rejected the military-issued parachutes offered by the McChord Air Force Base. And instead, he wanted civilian parachutes with manually operated ripcords. So Seattle police went and picked him up from a local skydiving school. Okay, that's key. Now, at 5:24 p.m., Cooper was informed that his demands had been met. And at 5:39, the aircraft landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. It was after sunset, and Cooper instructed the pilot to go to a brightly lit section of the tarmac and close all the window shades in the cabin so he wouldn't get sniped. Pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty smart.
Because at that point, it's just glowing windows of just, if he walks by one window, he's probably the only person walking around.
Exactly.
So,
Northwest Orient Airlines Seattle operations manager hand-delivered the cash and the parachutes to Cooper via the boarding stairs. The money was organized in bundles of $20 bills and in all weighed about 21 pounds. Like, this is no light task here.
No, it's a big duffel bag of money right
pounds,
there.
Man. Yeah, that's a big deal, especially skydiving. Now, once the delivery was completed, Cooper ordered all the other passengers and senior flight attendants to leave the plane. And during refueling, Cooper outlined his plan to the pilots. He was planning a southeast course towards Mexico City, and he wanted the minimum airspeed possible, which ended up being about 115 miles per hour, and only at a maximum of 10,000 feet altitude.
Yeah, he's not looking to get up into cruising altitudes. He's looking to jump heights.
Exactly. He also wanted the landing gear to remain in the takeoff and landing position. He wanted the wing flaps to be lowered 15 degrees, and the cabin remain unpressurized. He knew his planes, man.
Yeah, he knew that he needed
some
to
shit
open that
about
door.
planes. The co-pilot informed Cooper that the aircraft's range was approximately 1,000 miles, which meant that the plane would need a second refueling before actually getting to Mexico. So Cooper and the crew, they talked about it, and they agreed on Reno, Nevada. With the plane's rear exit door open and its staircase extended, Cooper directed the pilot to take off for Reno. The airline's home office objected, stating that it was unsafe to take off with the staircase deployed, and Cooper decided, fine, I won't argue the point. And then he ended up just lowering it again when
Yeah.
once they took off. He's like, yeah, whatever. There's a switch in the cabin that I can hit and lower this. I literally know this.
Sure, I promise I'll lock it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you lock it? Yep.
Yep.
I locked it. Take off.
It's currently locked. But at approximately 7:40 p.m., the Boeing 727 took off again with only 5 people on board now. It's Cooper, pilot Scott, flight attendant Mucklow, co-pilot Radizak, and flight engineer H.E. Anderson. Now, during this time, after this takeoff, 2 F-106 fighter aircrafts were sent from McCord Air Force Base to trail the Boeing 727. One was just above it, and one was just below, so Cooper couldn't see them out the windows, obviously. So overall, there were 5 planes trailing Cooper. There were 3 other ones that kind of, I don't want to say like volunteered. I think they were kind of recruited. They were kind of in that space, and it was like, hey, pilot, could you follow this plane?
Yeah.
Let us know what you see. Let us know if anyone jumps from it, that kind of thing. So all in all, during this flight, during this small trip, there were 5 planes. And no one in any of the 5 planes saw anyone jump, and none of them could pinpoint a location where he could have landed. Now, after takeoff, Cooper told the crew in the cockpit to remain there with the door closed. Then Cooper tied something around his waist, according to one of the pilots. He said he swore he was seeing tying something around his waist. Probably the money. I mean, obviously. Now, at approximately 8 p.m., At approximately 8 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit, indicating that the rear stairs had been opened again. This is what I'm talking about.
You told me they were locked.
The crew soon noticed the change in air pressure, and they knew. At approximately 10:15 p.m., the aircraft's rear stair was still deployed when the plane landed at Reno Airport. FBI agents, state troopers, and Reno police surrounded the jet and quickly confirmed that Cooper was nowhere to be found. But what they did find was 66 unidentified fingerprints. But a lot of good that does you in the 70s.
Right,
Honestly, It's like, oh, cool. We got all these fingerprints.
There's so much like saliva.
It's like
and
there were
DNA here. That's useless. Toss that.
Right. The agents also found Cooper's black clip-on tie.
There we go.
That's how they knew it was a clip-on, Andy. And 2 of the 4 parachutes, one of which had been opened, and 2 of the suspension lines were cut from the canopy.
Okay.
Now, authorities interviewed eyewitnesses in Portland, Seattle, Reno, basically anyone who interacted with Cooper on any level. And a series of composite sketches were made from that. And I'm sure you've seen them. They've become quite iconic.
Yeah, right. It's a pretty unique. It's almost like the Zodiac sketch now.
It
It's just
really
like
is.
This like almost ambiguous face of just black sunglasses, crop hair, black suit.
Yeah, I like it. It's cool. Now, the FBI immediately began questioning anyone who remotely fit the profile, like an Oregon man named D.B. Cooper.
Just went to the phone book immediately.
And they were like, what if he just used his real name?
I mean, he might have.
I mean, we got to try it.
Yeah, give me the yellow pages.
Exactly. And, well, this D.B. Cooper had a minor police record. But, there was the off chance that the hijacker had used his real name.
Probably.
There was. Alas, the real DB was quickly ruled out as a suspect, though. But a local reporter, rushing to meet a deadline, confused the suspect's name with the one used by the hijacker. Then, to make things worse, a wire service reporter republished the error, and basically all other media sources started following suit, and the moniker D.B. Cooper became lodged in our collective memory.
Yeah, because he just said Dan.
Yeah,
He's like,
exactly.
He just said Dan.
And that dude, D.B. Cooper's like, damn it.
I just,
call me Dave now.
Yeah, I'm Daniel. How about that? I'm Daniel Cooper. All right,
Daniel Boone Cooper.
I just always imagine like the just basically the plot of like The Big Lebowski of just especially like since they ruled him out so quickly, it's like they go to like Dan Cooper's house and it's just a guy who looks like Jeff Bridges, just like
what?
Just mixing his White Russian like. Huh?
What are you guys doing here, man?
$200,000, huh?
Wow.
I don't think he's our guy.
No. They were quite confused. Everyone was. And to add to the confusion, police were also finding out that a search area was going to be very difficult to define because even small differences in the aircraft's speed, environmental conditions, and all that shit would change Cooper's projected landing point.
And when he would have jumped out.
Exactly.
The fact that nobody saw him exactly when he exited,
right.
They don't know a jump point.
Yeah, they don't have an exact time. They don't have a jump point, nothing. Another important factor is the length of time that he remained in free fall before pulling his ripcord. I mean, if he opened a parachute at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most unfortunate part.
Honestly, seriously. Again, neither of the Air Force pilots saw anything visually or on radar. But it was night with extremely limited visibility, cloud cover, and DB was wearing all black.
Yeah, he's not jumping out with flashing lights or anything really reflective on.
No, I mean, they could have easily missed him.
Been the worst thing of just that. I just imagine a comedy scenario with just like the pilot that's under the plane just flying along just hears like a the hell was that?
Just does a little maneuver and shakes it off. What the hell? Ah, damn geese. Nope, no sign of him, sir.
Never saw him, Captain.
Coming on back. But no, initially they thought that Cooper's landing zone was in an area on the southern outreach of Mount St. Helens, somewhere near Lake Merwin, which is an artificial lake that's formed by a dam on the Lewis River. So search efforts focused around that area in those two counties that river runs through, both south and north of the river in Washington. They were on foot. They were on helicopter. They did door-to-door searches of farmhouses. They ran patrol boats along Lake Merwin and Yell Lake. There was no trace of Cooper or any of the equipment he used.
Exactly.
And most importantly, no money.
No money.
Where's the goddamn money?
Not even sprinklings of it. Not even a light dusting of money.
It's like the more they searched and the less they found, the more the public was like, this is amazing.
This is real. This is a real fairy tale.
Locals were enamored by the story, much like we are today, you know. They were rooting for Cooper. Here's one quote from a local resident. He says, it's funny. Folks are actually pulling for this man. That's all anybody wants to talk about. I hear it all day long. I hope he made it. He deserves it. I hope he gets away with every nickel. Like he's some kind of Robin Hood character.
Well, yeah, because he just like they said, he wasn't stealing from the people on board. No. He didn't go like an old west train robber. He didn't go around taking everybody's jewelry and money.
Nope.
He was stealing from a large corporation, small money to them.
Exactly.
And then not hurting anybody, let everybody go with exactly how he said he would.
It was insured.
Mm-hmm. Nobody got hurt. There was no bomb went off.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm sure all this public love put a lot more pressure on law enforcement. You can imagine how it feels to them. They're like, oh no, we can't let this shit slide. We got to make an example out of this fool.
We can't be embarrassed.
We got to leave this case open as long as it takes.
We're always
even
searching.
If it's 45 years.
Never forget.
But in early 1972, teams of FBI agents, aided by 200 Army soldiers from Fort Lewis, along with Air Force personnel, National Guardsmen, and civilian volunteers, conducted a ground search of the two counties again for 18 days. Okay?
Jeez.
18 straight days. 200 plus, 200, that's just the Army soldiers, right? 200 plus people searched these grounds on foot for 18 days. And that's a month later, they joined up again and did 18-day search, but in different areas.
Mm-hmm. And that's not even including all the aerial searches of just, helicopters going around, of planes flying over, of everything they were doing constantly.
It's insane. They even used a submarine to search 200 feet down into the depths of Lake Merwin. Ultimately, the search operation, probably the most extensive, intensive, not to mention the most expensive in U.S. history, probably, was all for nothing.
God, you imagine if somebody got to look at the budget of like how much was spent on the search for DB Cooper
versus how much was stolen.
Like they would just be like, you should have called this off on day 3.
You see what the fuck? It's out of spite. They're like, we can't let him get away with just taking this money.
No,
he may look like fools, man.
We may spend tenfold to try and catch him, but we will make an example.
Exactly. So they're like, we can't find Cooper, so let's just see if we can find the money. That's the most important thing. If we can get the money back, who cares what Cooper is?
We know the serial numbers. We've got the prints of them.
Exactly. So a month after the hijacking, the FBI distributed a list of the serial numbers to financial institutions, banks, casinos, racetracks, basically any business who conducted a big cash transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, to law enforcement agencies all around the world. He could be anywhere by now.
Yeah.
He really could. Now, Northwest Orient Airline offered a reward of 15% of the recovered money, up to a maximum of $25,000, which would be $150K in today's dollars, give or take. In early 1972, U.S. Attorney General John N. Mitchell released the serial numbers to the public.
Yeah, because now you're going to, as soon as you do that, now you just send out even more treasure hunters.
Yes, you do, and con men. It was, oh my God, I had to put this little fun fact in here. It has really nothing to do with the case. It's just hilarious because in 1972, right after these were released to the public, 2 men used counterfeit $20 bills printed with the Cooper serial numbers to swindle a Newsweek reporter out of $30,000. His name was Carl Fleming.
Oh.
They promised him the bills. Well, they gave him the bills, which he never, I guess, questioned.
Never got
that
them
was
checked,
proof,
yeah.
right? And then they promised him a interview with Cooper for $30,000, and he paid him, and they dipped. Obviously, they didn't know who the hell Cooper was, but oh my God, man, what opportunist!
Yeah, as soon as you release those serial numbers to the public,
oh my God,
you just they just very easily became fakeable.
They made 2 $20 bills and basically traded them for $30,000.
And the fact that they only made 2 of them. It's like you could
that's all you needed.
You didn't make like a stack of them to be like.
No, they just wanted to prove,
just to flick through that stack of cash, be like, we know where DB is.
Right.
He gave us this to show you.
Yeah.
It's like, but if you just got 2 of the $20 bills, like that would have been one of those things. Like you could have just found those in the woods. I think it just dusted down or whatever. It's like
I don't know.
Only got
Slim
2 of them.
Slim chance. But in 1973, the Oregon Journal republished the serial numbers and offered a $1,000 reward, which is about $6,000, give or take today, to the first person to turn in a ransom bill to the newspaper or any FBI field office. And finally, in 1975, Northwest Orient Insurer, with an order from the Minnesota Supreme Court, finally paid the airlines a $180,000 claim on the ransom money. And see, there you go, Andy. Everybody wins.
Literally, like
everybody wins. What's the big deal?
The only person that lost on this was apparently the federal government.
And Northwest Orient Airlines having to wait so damn long, 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, but still. But again, that's
if we
such
waited
a small
4
claim.
years to pay our insurance premium, Andy, we would not have insurance for like 3 years and 11 months ago. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like just the idea of like, again, it's not a huge amount of money to a major corporation
or an insurance company.
It's not to an insurance company either. So it's like, yeah, the only person who lost on this is the fact that the massive amount of money they spent on this goddamn search.
Really?
All the pay, all the fuel, all the just people you had to hire and bring it. No, God.
Yeah, exactly. So that was pretty much it for a long time. Now, there have been some later developments. Like, for instance, the pilot, Scott, who was flying the aircraft that day, was doing so manually because, obviously, of Cooper's speed and altitude demands. And he claimed that his flight path was way further east than they had originally thought. Now, this suggested that the actual drop zone was probably southeast of the original estimate in the drainage area of the Washougal River. So that could have been detrimental.
Well, see, that's one of those things that always made me question too, because it was like, if that pilot says that their flight path was different, wouldn't the other 2 like Air Force pilots who were right there with them, wouldn't they be able to be like, yeah, our flight path was further east because they're right on top and below him.
Right,
they would all be on the same flight path to an extent.
Exactly. I think we know the flight path. There were other planes trailing you.
Yeah, it's not just like you guys were up there alone.
No. But alas, on July 8th, 2016, the FBI announced that it was suspending the investigation into the D.B. Cooper case, citing a need to focus resources and manpower on more important issues. Yeah, sure.
You know, that was just some new director came in one time, was just like looking over some budgetary stuff and saw like just
guys.
DB Cooper. What
is anyone still alive from this time? Still working here? Like, what the hell?
No, I want to see what you're doing today. I want to see what you've done last week you're fired.
Yeah, man, they got stumped. They left that case open for 45 years.
God damn.
They
Over
wanted,
200
they wanted
grand.
somebody to pay for that shit.
It was an embarrassment. It really was. That's all it was.
Yeah. And on the FBI website, there's a 28-part packet full of evidence gathered over the years, and all the evidence is basically open to the public, just FYI.
Yeah,
if you guys want to go down a serious rabbit hole.
It's created so many documentaries and YouTube videos and spawned treasure hunters and all kinds of people who have just devoted their time and lives to trying to find this mystery.
And so much bullshit in there too.
Oh God, yes.
So many red herrings in this case. But what do we know, right? What's the physical evidence? Well, the physical description of Cooper has basically remained unchanged. Flight attendants gave nearly identical descriptions. 5 feet 10 to 5 feet 11, 170 to 180 pounds, mid-40s, close set, piercing brown eyes, and dark olive skin. I mean, it's never changed.
Sounds like James Bond. It really does.
Right?
Sounds like Sean Connery's James Bond. That's like kind of what you picture. If you just put like Ray-Ban sunglasses on young Sean Connery,
right?
That's kind of what it sounds like.
And that's pretty much all they knew until February of 1980. A freaking 8-year-old has the biggest break in the case in years.
Right? Yeah.
Like
from the mouths of babes.
Just stumbles upon it. In February of 1980, 8-year-old Brian Ingram, he was vacationing with his family in a little spot on the Columbia River known as Tina Bar. It's about 9 miles from Vancouver, Washington. While playing in the river, he found 3 bundles of cash kind of stuck in the riverbank. The bills were disintegrated, but still bundled together in rubber bands. And the FBI technicians confirmed that the money was part of the ransom money. 2 bundles of $20 bills, 100 in each bundle, and then a third bundle that had 90 $20 bills in it, all arranged in the same order as when given to Cooper.
So some of that money left that plane, definitely.
Yes, this is exciting. And in 1986, the recovered bills were divided equally between Ingram and Northwest Orient's insurer. The FBI retained 14 bills, though, for themselves as evidence. Ingram, fun fact, ended up selling 15 of his bills at auction in 2008 for $37,000.
God, that's like fine. It's like Pokemon cards from your childhood,
right?
I only made that connection because my friend just sold $27,000 worth of Pokemon cards from his childhood.
Oh my God!
And it's just it's like just something you didn't know was worth anything. You're like, how much do you want for it? Okay,
right? That's insane. But to date, none of the other 9,710 remaining bills have ever turned up. Their serial numbers are still online, though. You can still check it out. Now, the Columbia River money and the air stair instruction placard, which was found in the woods by a hiker. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but it's not really huge important, but somebody found the air stair instruction placard that obviously fell from that plane.
But yeah, but they did say when the plane landed, the stairs were still down.
Yeah,
so it's like
exactly.
He opened the stairs, the back of the plane was open, so it's like, yes, I know I had blown off the plane.
Exactly. So the money and that placard are basically the only confirmed physical evidence from the hijacking ever found outside of the aircraft. That's it. No parachutes. Like, that's insane, man.
Nope.
No articles of clothing.
No bags, nothing. That briefcase nothing was ever recovered besides that little bundle of cash that the child found. So.
Exactly. Now, over the years, the FBI has disclosed a little more, and a little more to the public. In late 2007, the FBI announced that a partial DNA profile had been obtained from 3 organic samples found on Cooper's clip, on the clip-on tie, actually.
Damn it. Stop drooling on your tie, DB.
Seriously. And they found this out in 2001. They kept that shit a secret for a while. Though they later acknowledged that there was really no way of knowing if this organic sample was from Cooper.
Yeah, because at this point, you have no idea how many police officers or people may have picked this up with something on their hands, and it just got spilled on there. It's like, this thing, DNA wasn't that closely monitored at the time. So this could have been anything, sweat from anything, could have been drink spilled. Like, it's just, it's hard to prove that it's definitely his.
Exactly. Now, they also noticed that Cooper chose the older of the 2 parachutes rather than the technically superior professional parachute. And for his other chute, he actually selected a dummy parachute with an inoperative ripcord mainly used for classroom demonstrations.
Okay.
Yeah, and it also had clear markings on it that it was for classroom demonstrations. And I think an experienced skydiver would have noticed that right away.
I'm confused at why they even included that in his bundles of parachutes. It's
Yeah.
Like, were they kind of like fingers crossing, hoping that he picked the wrong one? It's
They had to be right.
We put one dummy in there.
They claim it was a mistake.
Yeah.
They claim it was a mistake.
Maybe.
The FBI, they insist.
They insist.
Yeah.
We didn't grab the dummy chute on purpose.
Exactly. In March of 2009, the FBI had assembled a team of citizen sleuths. This team is great. They really. I think if this team can't find DB, there's no hope for us.
Then he's not going to be found.
He's not going to be found. He's like Bigfoot. But this team included a scientific illustrator and a metallurgist.
Yeah, metallurgist. Yeah,
metal expert, basically.
Yes, a metal expert.
I mean, I understand what it is. It's just I don't know if I've ever seen that word written out before I wrote it in this timeline. So I put metal expert in parentheses just in case.
Metal alchemist.
In case I went into panic mode and was like, nope, I'm not even going to try it on the podcast.
Metallurgist. Metal. Metal expert.
Anyway, he a metal guy.
He works with metal and shit.
But the group, eventually known as the Cooper Research Team, very creatively named, they were able to find microparticles on Cooper's tie using electron microscopy. Andy, very fancy stuff here. Yeah. They found lycopodium spores. So I'm sure you know what that means.
Obviously. It's in my daily vocabulary.
Yeah, but if you don't, it means it's likely from some type of pharmaceutical product, as well as bismuth and aluminum, which I know aluminum. I know aluminum, and pure titanium.
So he wasn't using Oh My Gaia.
No, he was not. They found pure titanium as well on his tie, okay? Now, they explained that this titanium, which was rare in the 70s in general, was found only in metal fabrication or production facilities or chemical companies. And they used it to store extremely corrosive substances.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they suggested that Cooper may have been a chemist or a metal expert himself, or possibly an engineer or manager of, such facility, a metal or a chemical plant, or maybe he had that shit on him because he just made a fucking bomb.
Because it was an actual bomb.
Because he made a bomb. This makes perfect sense when you think about that.
I would love to see the recipe of like what they bought, all the ingredients that are in like these possible explosives that he had, and then just like the list of things, just like running across, being like, found that one, found that one, found that one. Yeah, it's bomb recipe. It's bomb. It's bomb residue.
But later on, in January of 2017, I guess their microscopy had gotten a little better because they reanalyzed the tie, and they also found traces of rare earth minerals like cerium and strontium sulfide. Now, one of the uses for these elements in the 1970s, at least, was Boeing's supersonic transport development project, Andy.
Oh, Boeing doing them fancy planes, huh?
Uh-huh. So did DB work for Boeing? I mean, that would explain his knowledge of the plane. And his lack of knowledge of the parachutes.
Yeah, there's definitely, it's obvious that DB at least knew about planes.
Oh, he knew about that one.
Yeah, he knew about that plane at least. He knew the speed he needed to go at. Mm-hmm. He knew the height he needed to go at. He knew how he could take off. He knew how the plane needed to be depressurized. So he was familiar with the vessel he was operating.
Mm-hmm. And he was also familiar with the Seattle area. And they think he may have been an Air Force veteran based on testimony that he recognized the city of Tacoma from the air, as we mentioned earlier, as the jet was just circling through Puget Sound. And his accurate comment that McChord Air Force Base was 20 minutes drive from Seattle-Tacoma Airport, a detail that most civilians wouldn't know or really care.
It wouldn't be on the top of their head.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Why do you know that?
Exactly.
The Piggly Wiggly's 8 minutes from downtown.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, this is all speculation. Yeah. This is all speculation from the FBI. FBI also thinks that Cooper took his alias from a popular Belgian comic book series in the 1970s featuring the fictional hero Dan Cooper, a Royal Canadian Air Force test pilot who took part in numerous heroic adventures, including parachuting.
I mean, that's probably
not limited to.
It's a very plausible explanation, too, just picking a cool name like cool. James Bond.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, because the Dan Cooper comics were never translated into English nor imported to the U.S., They speculated that he may have encountered them during a tour of duty in Europe. But the Cooper research team suggested the possibility that Cooper was Canadian and could have found the comics in Canada, where they were also sold.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're sold in Canada, how could you not understand how they could end up in Washington State?
What?
Like, whoa, what a stretch. Am I right, man? That's crazy, Andy. Is that like...
It's not fucking crossing it's not crossing the Atlantic. It's like, Jesus Christ,
Man.
it's crossing.
It might as well be, right?
It's like throwing it to your neighbor's yard.
It's just insane to me how they're just like, he had to be Canadian because they're in Canada, not in Washington State.
Oh my God.
No freaking way. Oh God. But they also noted his specific wording when asking for the money. He said he wanted negotiable American currency, which, now that's a little more evidence to maybe he's from another country, maybe Canadian. Because that's a phrase I don't think I've ever heard an American say.
No, even like it's not a common
Not even
phrase.
in a movie.
Yeah, it's not something you would hear in an old movie or anything you ever heard in like documentation of things like negotiable American currency.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds weird.
And so you couple that with the fact that he has no accent, and that's why people think Canadian.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't have that Shoresy accent up there,
right?
He's not talking about Shoresy up there, but he's not asking for $200,000.
Now that accent, a little easier to identify, but most Canadians, they have to say certain words before you're like, "What? Did you just say a boot?
Did you just say sorry?"
So we know Cooper was knowledgeable about aircrafts and the terrain. He was smart, He demanded 4 parachutes. And I think he did that so they would think that he's going to force hostages to jump.
At least someone.
Right?
Yeah.
At least some. That way, all the parachutes are good. And he would ensure that he didn't get sabotaged equipment, which he actually got.
Yeah,
then he sabotaged some more of his equipment.
I think that's the other thing too. It's like he got enough of them to make sure they gave him at least 1 or 2 good ones. And then you either think that it's like to make them think he's going to have to bring hostages, or why he's asking for the extra ones. But then why does he cut the ropes on the other 2? I always thought it was like maybe he doesn't want one of these pilots jumping out after him. Like he doesn't want anybody following him just in case.
But he did leave one that was okay.
I thought he left the dummy parachute that was okay.
No, he took the dummy one.
Oh yeah.
So if his one parachute didn't open, he did.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but he chose a 727 because it was ideal for a bailout, and because he worked for Boeing. No,
he knew that plane.
But not only because of its rear air stair, but also the high placement of the engines, which would allow for a safe jump, without getting vaporized by the freaking jet exhaust.
Yeah, you're not just getting sucked in or blown away.
Exactly. And the plane also had a single-point fueling system, which was fairly new at the time, but it allowed all the tanks of the plane to be fueled rapidly through one fuel port. And it also had the ability, which was very unusual for other jet airliners, to remain in slow, low-altitude flight. So that was
very
key,
similar.
man. He really planned this out.
It's pretty similar to a military aircraft. Like it's not too big, but it's still like it's got enough like room to carry passengers.
Yeah.
But it's not something that's gonna like if you open the door on like a 747, you're like, especially at cruising altitude, that thing's getting just blown away.
If I'm not mistaken, at the end of this airplane's life, this exact one, it ends up being used by the Air Force as like a transport plane for a little while before it's finally scrapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This airplane's got good vibes, boys.
Yeah, exactly. Cooper was also familiar with very important details of the plane, like the flap settings at 15 degrees. Like, who the hell gonna know that, man? Like, that's some big evidence that he worked for Boeing.
Or at least that he was a pilot.
Yeah, or wanted to be. And he knew the typical refueling time, too, so he knew where the stops needed to be made. But he also didn't know that he needed to stop again in Reno.
I don't think he was ever planning to go to Mexico. I think that's kind of one of those things he's just
that was a last minute.
We're heading in the direction of Mexico.
You're right.
And they're like, well, we have to stop before we get there. He's like,
oh, yeah, you're right.
Where do we need to stop?
Very true. Very
and they're
true.
just like, we probably should stop at Reno. He's like, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Head that way.
Exactly. Now, according to the Cooper research team, Cooper's planning extended even to the timing of his operation and his choice of attire, stating that the FBI searched but couldn't find anyone who disappeared that weekend, suggesting that he may have returned to his normal occupation on the following Monday, or the following Monday. Because if you were planning on going back to work on Monday, You would need as much time as possible to get out of the woods, find transportation, get home. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was the best time. It was a 4-day weekend, and you don't want to seem like you disappeared.
But it's not it's not unheard of to go away for the weekend.
Exactly.
Oh, nobody saw you at church on Sunday? Oh, yeah. I was up in the mountains.
Exactly. Also, I mean, if you got a hitchhike, which he most likely did, to get back home, I think it's a lot easier to hitchhike in a suit.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you had a nice clean landing. You know, if you didn't fuck up the press, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if he's able to just land like James Bond, just walk out of there.
Fuck up the pleats. You know what I'm saying? You're coming in with the shiny shoes.
Fixing the cuffs as he's walking away.
Exactly. Who wouldn't pick this guy up?
He's got a nice little briefcase, wearing sunglasses at night.
Yeah. But, you know, for all his genius, he failed to bring or request a helmet, which never safe when you're jumping from a plane at night. And he chose to jump with the worst parachutes that he was given, and he jumped into a negative 70-degree wind chill with nothing but a 3-piece suit, my man.
This man was prepared at least, but
kinda.
I still, it's like, I don't know if it was the inferior of the parachutes to him. I always believed it was the one he was more familiar with. Because they say it's not the more advanced one, which is like the more like sportier one for skydivers.
Right.
It was like more of like a traditional parachute. So it's almost one that like maybe like somebody in the military would have more experience
it's all
with.
about opinion, right? But they're just stating that the average experienced skydiver would have taken the better quality chute, mainly the one that he cut.
Yeah, it's like I don't think he was an experienced skydiver. I think he had jumped out of planes before.
Right.
But it's like, I don't think this guy was a skydiving aficionado. You know, this guy wasn't his hobby or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think this was just the robbery he planned.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but he did not plan for that cold. I mean, who knows how, oh gosh, dude. Imagine landing in the woods out there, dude. Oh my God.
That's what they talk about, that movie, the movie we were laughing about earlier, Without a Paddle, when they talk about like in that movie, they find that where he was in a cave and he, burned the cash to stay alive.
Yeah.
It's like, he jumped in like negative 70-degree weather into the Pacific Northwest, like wilderness.
Right.
It's like, there's a good chance he didn't make it out. So.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, you would need some serious winter gear.
And just supplies, depending on where you landed.
Yep.
Because again, he wasn't like he was landing with like a flare going down for somebody to pick him up down there.
No.
So it's like those planes are following behind. So he's not signaling as he's going down.
Yeah, it's amazing that they found no trace of him. Nothing he was carrying. Not any money. It's absurd. It really is. I mean, I know they found the money in 1980, but
it's still it's such a huge plot of land. It's so much land that he could have landed over.
Yeah.
That it's like the amount of time they did take to canvass that place. It's like if he really did land safely and got out of there, there was going to be nothing left behind in that amount of time.
Exactly.
So if they didn't find a body to an extent or like a campsite.
And I feel like they would have found a body, man, with the extensive searching they were doing.
Yeah, like I said, or a campsite.
Hundreds of people out there on foot for days.
Dogs out there. You would have found something, some source of habitat or survival setup going.
Yeah. But they didn't. They didn't find nothing. But they had quite a few suspects over the years who they
obviously
questioned. They did. Between 1971 and 2016, the FBI processed over 1,000 quote-unquote serious suspects, which included publicity seekers and deathbed confessors and everything in between, honestly.
And good old Dan from the beginning of the story, just sitting there stirring his white Russian, just going,
What?
$200,000. Wow.
I said I did what?
You think I did what?
That's insane. But honestly, guys, nothing more than circumstantial evidence could be found on any of them. Nothing to charge them with this crime. But, for your entertainment, I compiled a list of some of my favorites.
Obviously.
Number one, in no particular order. Number one is not like the guy I think it most is. But I will tell you who I think it mostly is. Kenneth Christensen. Christensen enlisted in the Army in 1944. He was trained as a paratrooper. The war had ended by the time he was deployed in 1945, but he did still make occasional training jumps while stationed in Japan with occupation forces in the late 40s. Now, after leaving the Army, he joined Northwest Orient Airline in 1954 as a mechanic, someone who would know a lot about the planes, and subsequently became a flight attendant, then a chief flight attendant based out of Seattle. Now, Christensen was 45 years old at the time of the hijacking, but he fits the age range, spot on, but he was shorter. He was 5'8", and he was thinner, 150 pounds, and lighter skin than D.B. Cooper. Than the witnesses said. I mean, he was a lighter complexion.
Short kings can wear lifts. I mean, we can always put some platforms in those shoes a little bit, but he's not. I don't think he's make-upped up. I don't think he's out there with just got some bronzer on for this robbery.
Or maybe he just got out more back then.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, he was a younger man, right?
He had just got back from Japan. He was hanging out a lot on the beaches and just kind of chilling in the Philippines.
And there's other similarities too. Okay, Christensen smoked just like the hijacker.
Everybody smoked,
and he loved bourbon. Okay,
you described a man in this. You just described a man from 1940 to 1980.
I got a very deciding. That's why I don't take any of these serious. Okay, these are just my favorites. He was also left-handed.
Okay,
and photos of Cooper's tie showed that the clip was applied from the left side.
There we go.
Who would do that? Would you do that?
Go around backwards.
No, I would not do that. Now, Christensen reportedly had purchased a house also with cash a few months after the hijacking. While dying of cancer in 1994, he told his brother, "There's something you should know, but I can't tell you."
So, should I know it? Actually, probably not.
No. But anyways, so that's just not enough evidence for me. But after Christensen's death, family members found gold coins and valuable stamp collections in his home, along with $200,000 in his bank accounts. Okay, odd number.
But
they also found a folder of Northwest Orient news clippings, which began around the time he was hired in the 1950s and stopped just prior to the date of the hijacking.
It's circumstantial.
Okay. Still getting circumstantial. Okay. Christensen continued, to work part-time for the airline years after 1971, after the hijacking, but there are no other clippings in his collection after that time.
Someone stopped taking as much interest, I guess.
Interesting. Like he was studying it.
But you would also think too, it's like if he bought his house with cash after that thing, it's like, but they still haven't found any of the bills with the serial numbers matching. And it's like a big
so
purchase
check this
like
out.
that. You would think would go straight to a bank, and they would have had to scan all those bills in. And
exactly. And thank you again, internet sleuths. People would eventually uncover, probably the research group, honestly, would uncover there is proof out there that Christensen did not pay for this house with cash, but instead had a mortgage on the house, and it took him 17 years to pay it off. And they also found that Christensen had sold off almost 24 acres of land for $17,000 per acre in the mid-90s, and that is how he accumulated his $200,000+ that was in his bank.
I mean, it's a pretty good price.
So it's all explained. You know what I'm saying?
I wish I could get 24 acres for land. $17,000.
I know, right? Seriously. Now, overall, Christensen is a poor match to eyewitness physical descriptions. He has a level of skydiving that is apparently better than D.B. Cooper, and most importantly, an absence of direct incriminating evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, which is what you're going to find in a lot of these. Just like Jack Coffelt. Coffelt. Anyways, Coffelt was a con man. He was an ex-convict and government informant who claimed to have been the chauffeur and confidant of Abraham Lincoln's last undisputed descendant. So that's the kind of guy we're dealing with. Okay. Yeah.
Weird thing to put on your resume, but all right.
Seriously, I mean, I don't know. But in 1972, he began claiming that he was D.B. Cooper. Why not?
Why
the hell not? And he attempted to sell his story to a Hollywood production company. He said that he landed near Mount Hood, about 50 miles southeast of Ariel, injuring himself and losing the ransom money in the process. Photos of Coffelt are similar to the composite drawings, although he was in his mid-50s in 1971. He was reportedly in Portland on the day of the hijacking and sustained leg injuries around that time, which were consistent with a skydiving mishap.
That would be one of the most improbable, but also kind of likely things that would happen in that situation is jumping out of the plane and losing all the money on the way down because you jumped out at night and it's freezing and the wind is blowing.
Yeah, it's 21 extra pounds.
Why that kid found 3 of the bundles in the riverbed and stuff. So,
yeah, exactly. Now, Cofeld's account was reviewed by the FBI, who concluded that it differed significantly from information that had not been made public. And, information they knew to be true.
Yeah.
So they had direct evidence against his alleged account. So, yeah, Cofelt sounds like a bullshitter, man. He sounds like a lifetime bullshitter.
Yeah, trying to gain some publicity towards just trying to make himself, put himself in the story somewhere.
Absolutely. 1-2 punch. Old freaking Cofelt. He's knocked out. Who's next? Lynn Doyle Cooper. LD Cooper, if you will. A leather worker and Korean War veteran. Was proposed as a suspect in July 2011 by his niece, Marla Cooper. As an 8-year-old, she recalled her uncle planning something very mischievous involving the use of expensive walkie-talkies. And this was at her grandmother's house in Oregon, about 150 miles south of Portland.
I do love how she's like her and her uncle and her other uncle were like planning something with walkie-talkies. That just sounds like an 8-year-old who just walked in on their uncles just playing with new walkie-talkies. They're just trying to like play army.
Go outside. Go outside. Let's see.
It's just 2 40-year-old brothers.
Where you at? Are you at the mailbox? Hot damn.
I'm by the back shed over. It's just 2 40-year-old brothers who got walkie-talkies and they're like, check it out. Go outside.
He grabbed me a beer in the fridge on the way in.
I didn't catch it. You didn't say over.
Anyway, the next day after observing these mischievous uncles, Flight 305 was hijacked, Andy.
Oh, obviously.
And though the uncles ostensibly were turkey hunting, okay?
Okay.
They were turkey hunting. But LD Cooper came home wearing a bloody shirt, the result, he said, of an auto accident. Later, she said her parents came to believe that LD Cooper was the hijacker. She also recalled that her uncle, who died in 1999, was obsessed with the Canadian comic book hero Dan Cooper.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I would have loved to just ask the question. Your uncle comes home from turkey hunting with a bloody shirt and it's a car accident. How's the car? Fine. Why are you? It's fine.
Right.
It's just, you could have just said turkey blood. I don't know. You could have just said,
I know,
got a
right?
nosebleed, but yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You went turkey hunting. It's like that kind of makes sense. You already processed the birds. You're coming in.
Yeah, okay. It's like, unless this car is messed up, I would have gone with anything else.
Right? Seriously.
I got beat up by a deer. I don't know what to tell.
But the nail in the coffin here for LD Cooper is that his DNA did not match the partial DNA profile, at least the DNA profile on the tie.
Yeah, the one they found on the tie.
Whoever's that is.
Mm-hmm.
So, next up, probably my favorite, honestly, Barbara Dayton. Okay? Barbara Dayton was a recreational pilot who was born Robert Dayton in 1926. Okay? He served in the U.S. Merchant Marine and the Army in World War II. After discharge, Dayton worked with explosives in the construction industry and aspired to be a pilot, but wasn't able to obtain a commercial pilot's license.
Okay.
So Dayton underwent gender reassignment surgery in 1969 and changed her name to Barbara. She also claimed to have staged the Cooper hijacking 2 years later, disguised as a man to get back at the airline industry and the FAA, whose unfair rules and conditions prevented her from becoming an airline pilot.
Okay.
She said she hid the ransom money in a cistern near her landing point in Woodburn, a suburban area south of Portland. Very specific, honestly. That really is. Eventually, she recanted her entire story, and this was probably after learning that she could still be charged with the hijacking at this time. Statute of limitations was not up yet.
Yeah, always check the statute.
And another fun fact about Barbara is that the FBI has never publicly commented on Barbara Dayton. And she died in 2002.
I do love her story too, because it also just kind of it almost fits.
It's like,
a little
why
bit
recant if you didn't do it?
Well, especially at that point. But
why recant?
I'm also just imagining it's like it does make sense of why was this man so polite up in the air, especially to the stewardesses, and wanted to make sure everything was okay. It's like,
and when you look at the sketch, I mean, it's clean shaven, very feminine, thin face.
Very gaunt. Like, it's like, yeah, I could almost see it. Like, if you had somebody like this, could put on a little bit of a disguise, could drop their voice a little bit still, that would be a really good move right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I will attach a few other runner-ups, I guess, honorable mentions below the description of this episode. I've compiled them into little summaries if you guys want to check those out. To me, they're not it.
I don't believe so either, no.
No. Honestly, I don't know if Cooper lived through this, man. Like, when you really study the conditions of that night.
Yeah.
And what he was wearing and how ill-prepared he was, the winds, the rain, the cloud cover, Jesus, the temperature.
The fact that some of the money was recovered in the river.
Yeah.
That's just one of the biggest things to me, is the fact that some of the bundles were recovered in a riverbed.
Exactly.
Like, partially dissolved, and they were like stuck in the mud somewhere to where they could have just been like, dropped there or eventually washed in there. It's hard for me to believe sometimes that he did get away with this.
And if that money fell in the river, that river would destroy that money fast, man.
The fact that nothing's ever been, none of the money's been found.
I know.
None of the money was ever used to purchase anything. It's never been, none of the serial numbers have been tracked down, except for those 3 bundles. It's hard for me to believe those serial numbers, that money has ever gotten back out.
I know.
At least of the woods.
So what came of it, right? Quite a bit, actually. The Cooper hijacking marked the beginning of the end for easy, convenient airline travel.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much. Despite the initiation of the Federal Sky Marshal program the previous year, 31 hijackings were committed in the U.S. airspace the following year, in 1972. 19 of them were for the specific purpose of extorting money, and most of the rest of them were attempts to reach Cuba. In 15 of the extortion cases, the hijackers also demanded parachutes.
And this was in the following year.
The following year,
so it's like so many of these things are almost just like directly inspired.
So check this out. The very next year, they started requiring, in 1973, the FAA began requiring airlines to search all passengers and their bags. And that year, in contrast to the 31 the previous year, only 2 were attempted. In 1973. Both of these were by psychiatric patients, one of whom intended to crash the airliner into the White House to kill President Nixon. So,
I mean, that's a different
They were going to hijack the plane no matter what.
Yeah, this wasn't about the money.
No, or anything. They don't need anything with them. You can't stop someone's intentions.
No, right,
in their brain. Like, right? That doesn't come up on the scan.
No. But God, yeah, this is like, could you imagine what this would have been like? Because we lived through 9/11, and we lived through the changing of what like airport travel used to be before 9/11, and then after it, when everybody got, now there's so many more security things.
Oh my God, yeah.
What it would have been before this, I was joking about smoking on a plane, but literally before this, you could just basically just like walk into an airport with just like, 2 duffel bags and be like, I need a ticket to Hong Kong, please.
Yep.
They'd be like, sure, here you go. Do you need some Lucky Strikes?
Exactly.
And you just walk onto the plane. Like, that was it.
That's it, man. That's it. Now, along with these modifications in airports, there were also modifications to aircrafts themselves. Like, for instance, now the FAA required that all Boeing 727 aircrafts be fitted with a device, later dubbed the Creepvan, that prevents lowering of the rear staircase during flight. As a result of the hijacking, the installation of peepholes were also mandated on all cockpit doors, so the crew can look into the passenger cabin, without opening the door.
Mm-hmm.
They can be safe back there,
Yeah, it's like, and still, you have to remember, for after this time, until 9/11, you could still get into a cockpit. Like,
Yeah.
they would leave the doors open sometimes. You could go up there with your kids, let them look around, and like, it's like, this was still like, yes, they put like a peephole to be like, well, we should close this door if we need to, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we shouldn't need to,
Exactly. How many people are really going to hijack a plane?
Yeah, we shouldn't like need to, but in case.
Yeah. So, speaking of planes, what happened to that plane? Well, in 1978, the hijacked 727 aircraft was sold by Northwest to Piedmont Airlines, where it was re-registered and just continued domestic carrier service, all the way until 1984, when it was purchased by the now defunct charter company Key Airlines and re-registered again and incorporated into the Air Force's civilian charter fleet that shuttled workers between Nellis Air Force Base, that's near Vegas, and Tonopah Test Range, during the top secret F-117 Nighthawk development program, which I'm sure you're very aware of, Andy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very up to date on that.
Nighthawk.
Exactly. But in 1996, the aircraft was scrapped for parts in a Memphis boneyard.
What? That thing's not on display somewhere?
No.
Oh, man, that should be like the fucking Sully plane somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure that scrapyard guy kept something.
I would have just fucking put that in front of my scrapyard.
That's what DB Cooper sat right there.
I would just put that fucking plane out on display.
His ass sat on that seat.
These were the stairs.
These are the stairs right here.
See, they're missing the plate.
I still drive them around the yard.
Like the Bluth stair car.
Oh, gosh. But yeah, it was scrapped in 1996. That poor plane. But that's it. That's DB Cooper. That's all we know. And like I said, I have included some other candidates who deserve honorable mention, I guess. And they're kind of fun to read through. If you are doing some type of project or something on DB Cooper, some type of report, they're worth looking into, for sure. But guys, what you really should look into is Oh My Gaia all natural deodorant, honestly.
You want to leave no aluminum traces behind? You smell My Gaia right there.
Exactly. They will not find traces of aluminum on your tie or your shirt.
Nothing. On your body?
Nothing.
On your corpse? Nothing.
Nothing. Because Oh My Gaia is an innovative all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Okay, and there's tons of scents to choose from, like vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle. And if you're missing the aluminum in your old deodorant, I'm sure we could get like an aluminum scent. I haven't talked to Wendy, but if you just miss it, if you just like having aluminum in your armpits, that's fine too.
Right?
I guess.
If you just want to miss that smell, that good old aluminum feeling.
Yeah. Eesh. But anyways, if you want good scents, there's scents like coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot, amber, pear, sweet pea, sailor, barbershop, and of course, true crime pine.
Always true
crime pine, and it just goes great with the winter because the pines really shine in the winter.
Yes, they are. And guys, if you're growing out that beard to keep the face warm in the winters, you got all those nice beard oils too.
Yes.
Keep it nice and soft.
Get you some true crime pine beard oil right there.
Nice and soft, little shine to it.
Walk around smelling good. And because you're True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the code word Creepvan for 15% off. That's CREEPVAN, all one word, no spaces, Creepvan for 15% off your order. And that's at ohmygaia.com, OHMYGAIA.com. And you can also check them out at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram and give them a follow. Again, that's ohmygaia.com, and there is a link, and the code word is typed out for you right below the description of this episode. Okay? Also with links to Patreon. Patreon.com/truecrimeguys, where you can get access to everything we have ever made. And it's a hell of a catalog, including the 2018 episode that Lauren and myself did about DB Cooper. Actually, I think it's a two-parter.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Because we went through all of these guys, and I'm like, I'm not doing this again. I picked my favorites, and like I said, I'm going to include this stuff in the notes, in the sources and whatnot, so you guys can check those out if you want. But thank you for listening, guys. Please check out Patreon. It's a great way to support the show, and we appreciate it very, very much. Also, give us a follow on social media at True Crime Guys. Check us out on YouTube and Spotify Music. Man, what else, Andy? Are we good?
I think we're pretty good, guys. Hope everybody had a good holidays. Hope everybody had a happy new year.
Happy New Year.
We're into 2025 now.
Let's kick it. We're back to the grind.
Right?
Just like that.
2025, baby. It's time to work.
It's our time to shine.
God damn it. I gotta work this year.
Get to work, Andy. Let's go write some freaking crime lines.
I'm gonna go jump out of a plane.
Well, at least record it.
Right.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week with a new True Crime Guys case. Until then, just keep on creeping.
Bye.